song. Everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh man, I get so excited when I get asked to come and be a part of conversations such as this. First off, I'd like to give a shout out, a big thank you to the organizers of this event. These are conversations that are hard to organize, and so I know a lot of work really went into to planning that. So thank you to the organizers of this event. And also, seriously, thank you to everybody here as well for coming out so early in the morning and being a part of the conversation. I know that that's not always the easiest thing to do, so I really appreciate you being here and really encourage you, after this event is over and kind of the curtains come to a close, to please try to, do your best to open those curtains back up and expose the violence and the unhealthy relationships that are happening in our communities. The conversations that we have, I truly believe, are really the launching pad for change that's going to come around these issues. So please continue to have conversations with your friends, with your family, your peers at school. Please continue those conversations. And so like Richard said, I work for Calgary Communities Against Sexual Abuse, or CCASA for short. CCASA is an organization that strives to reduce the impact of sexual violence in our communities, and we have a mission to create healthy communities free from sexual abuse and sexual assault. And much like Richard also said, my role at CCASA more specifically is to engage men in the conversation around ending sexual and domestic violence. And I'd like to first quickly let you know why I'm here and why I choose to do the kind of work that I do. And it's because I know that the overwhelming majority of emotional, physical, financial abuse committed against individuals in our communities, against women, against children, and against other men is perpetrated by men. And I believe that men need to step up and do more to change those numbers. At CCASA, we're working to involve men in the conversation and engage men in the conversation, not because we view all men as harmful or we view men as potential perpetrators. We actually know that most men are good men and are not okay with the levels of other men's violence. And at CCASA, we really believe in men to be able to step up and speak out and change that culture. Challenge the systems that are allowing this violence, emotional, physical violence, to be normalized and tolerated in our society. I think sometimes also people find it odd that I am a man who chooses to do the kind of violence prevention work that I do, and I think that is really a shame because I love the work that I do. And I think that belief really exists because the issues of sexual and domestic violence historically have been framed as women's issues. And I think that there is a huge problem with that frame, and I do not accept that mindset. Because creating a world where we can live outside the threat of violence is not about, is this a woman's issue or is this a men's issue? Creating a world where we can all live outside of violence, I believe, is a human right. And, oh, yes. And in society, I think we really do get too caught up within that gender binary. And the division of the world into masculine and feminine. The first question I think that was probably asked about any of us in this room, is it a boy or is it a girl? Depending on that outcome, you probably got a blue onesie or a pink onesie. Come on, all the beautiful colors. Boys get blue, girls get pink. These messages, those types of messages, continue to come into our lives and are sent to us throughout our childhood, our adolescence, and into our adult lives. About what that means to be male or what that means to be female. And then that really affects, our identity and our outlook on, and our perspectives on who we are and who we want to become. When I first started at CCASA, I watched a TED Talk by a man named Tony Porter, who did introduce to me the concept of the man box, which basically means the rules that lay the foundation on how men are supposed to be. And if we fall short of this, we're categorized as less than, a less than male. You know, the man box teaches men that, you know, we must be strong, tough, don't show emotions, never take no for an answer, physically dominating, you know, go on sexual conquests. You know, a similar box, I believe, does exist for women as well. You know, with a different set of rules, a different set of expectations on what constitutes allowable and acceptable behavior for women as well. You know, to teach women to conform to a specific societal standard. You know, like Robin Thicke says, you know, you act like you're a good girl. You know, and I think what's important to realize is how these boxes maintain the status quo and allow for power differences between genders. So when a boy hears that they are acting like a girl, it's not a compliment to them. And what he is learning is that girls are less than boys. You know, I do believe that there is some safety, you know, within the man box, that the man box does bring to men. A sense that you know, fit in, that you belong, you know, a validation for who you are, what your role is within your family, within your peer groups, and within your own, you know, gender identity as well. And please, you know, don't get me wrong, because I do identify myself as a man, and I think that there are some amazing things about my identity as a man, just as I'm sure however you identify, you know, there are some amazing things there as well. And you know, I think that we just need to stop acting or feeling like there's only really one streamlined way for us to act. You know, the names and the actions taken by some people to maintain these boxes, you know, are not okay because they're at the root, I think, of gender-based violence. They really restrict people from being who they truly want to be, and they place pressure on all of us as people to maintain different systems of oppression. I really want to talk about the character that I did just play, and his situation with the man box. And, you know, instead of being able to talk about how he was feeling and express his emotions to his friend, letting him know that he would feel disappointed or let down, he had to stay inside the box. You know, and by doing so, it enforced the societal expectations of men to make it as hard as possible for another person to step outside that box. And you know, I know that we did have a few laughs in that last scene, but these conversations, I'm telling you, you know, we talked about it, they are so commonplace. You know, the way that we were talking about hockey fighting, you know, doesn't that glorify men's violence and put down, you know, men who aren't able to stand up and be tough and fight for themselves? That's not okay. You heard me sexualize my professor. You know, doesn't that reinforce the notion that women are purely just sexual objects? You know, doesn't that you know, discredit her intellect or disregard her ambitions and downplay the work that she put in to get to where she was in her career? You heard the homophobic attitudes as well. You know, what if my friend, you know, was in a relationship with a woman, but what if he was hiding his sexual identity? You know, would he be able to come and talk to me about that after the messages that I just gave him about what I think about that community? You know, you heard me say that his girlfriend had his balls, that he needed to take his balls back. You know, imagine the resentment that he would feel towards his partner, you know, in the aftermath of teasing he would receive, even if you believed that the right thing to do was to stay with his partner, you know, stay back. And obviously, you know, these were scripted conversations, and you might not get all these attitudes in one place all at once, but we wanted to demonstrate, you know, just how common these attitudes, you know, do occur in our society. And really, if there's one thing that I can challenge everybody here today to think about, it would be, you know, what are you teaching other people about healthy relationships? How are you setting the example? We need to be accountable for what we are teaching others. And I also realize that this can be challenging for many reasons, because often challenging the notions of the man box, what it means to be a man, involves stepping outside of that box. But I think if there's one thing that's missing within masculine culture, it's leadership. Leadership that demonstrates to every male-identified individual that being a man is how you define it for yourself. Yes! We need to teach young men that it's okay if they don't fit in this mold. As leaders in our schools and in our communities, we need to support and create safety for individuals to be able to challenge the mentality, behaviors, and restrictions that many men and young boys are socialized to conform to so that they can step outside the box. So I think that we can all live healthier lives, so that we can all live outside the threat of violence, and so that we can all be equal. Yes, thank you. As the famous, Mahatma Gandhi, who inspired many movements for the rights of individuals, said, you be the change that you want to see in this world. And when it comes to fostering a campus culture of healthy, accepting, and consenting relationships, it does start with you. And the conversations we've had here today, I know that can seem daunting. But I know that with the people working in this community, the people that are working in this school to bring awareness and an eventual end to sexual and domestic violence, that we can create a community, where we all feel accepted, supported, and equal. A world where we can all be free. And, thank you so much for listening today to this conversation. It was a pleasure and an honor for me to be here and be a part of this conversation. Like I said, keep it going. Together we can. Thank you.